And hello, welcome to another edition of. There we go. Hold on, I got to find out where I'm at here. Yeah, that works. All right, I welcome to another edition of Vishal and Company. Our lovely Madeline is working in Toronto and unable to attend this particular session. She'll be back next week. Today, we are going to be discussing the dumpster fire that is Evergrande, and also talking about Rivian kicking the pants of Tesla and all sorts of other things, especially with crypto. Joseph's going to be bringing that up, and I promise to switch the names around. I've had a day where I've been smoking way too much crack, just so everybody knows. All right, I'm going to stop smoking the crack and switch the names around, so they're not who they are. I'm who I am, but TK is obviously at the top, and Maddie is not present. And Vishal is just above me, and below me is Joseph, just for anybody that wants a correction right now. And in the next 5 seconds, I will replace the names. Vishal, tell us what's happening on the market, please.
All right, thanks, Galen. Big week. It's just been a bit nerve-wracking, a bit frustrating for some traders. But I wanted to show you guys the S&P 500 here because this is a trend line going back to May of this year. Even if you don't know anything about technicals, you can tell that just by the slope of this trend line that we are in an uptrend, right? So generally, the way I look at trend lines is when we have 3 or more touches, which we do have here, that level or that trend line is in play. And as you can see, we bounced off of this trend line late August and just this week. And a lot of eyes were on the trend line because if this trend line breaks, folks, the uptrend is basically over. And on Tuesday, on the 15th, sorry, that's a Wednesday, we had a nice green candle here. So a lot of people are saying, oh, look at that. That trend line has held. We are good to go. We're going to rip up higher, make new highs. Thursday, though, saw a bit of a dip, and we hit that trend line again. Buyers stepped in. And as you can see, this is a current candle for today. Not looking too good, especially if we get a red close below this trend line. Can anyone say maybe Black Monday if we get something like that? So big battle here. And everyone's asking, okay, what is freaking out the markets? Like, why this trouble? The data on the US side is not showing too much. It's still mixed. And there's still a debate on whether the Fed's going to taper or not. Some people were worried about, a taper tantrum bringing markets down. Over in Europe, there's talks of energy, natural gas. Let me quickly show you guys that chart for natural gas. But, it's up over 100% year to date, taking a bit of a dump just today. But big move in natural gas. News about natural gas shortages or storage shortages in places in Europe and how gas prices are going to rise. So, again, you're going to be paying more for heating your home, which will also play in the inflationary side of things. So some people are saying markets are dropping because there's this fear if the weather gets colder much sooner than anticipated, there's going to be this push for natural gas, and that's going to drive prices even higher. So let's watch the energy situation. But the big story is what's going on in Asia, in China particularly. And of course, the real estate developer, the property developer, China's second largest property developer, Evergrande, having some issues and maybe even on the brink of default. And this has been going on for, a few months' time. And just recently, last week, all of a sudden, Evergrande said, yeah, the bonds that are corporate bonds that some of these banks such as UBS, BlackRock, Royal Bank of Canada, and HSBC, we're not going to be paying any interest on that. Uh-oh. And then earlier this week, oh yeah, the bonds that, are corporate bonds that banks and other institutions have, we're not going to allow you to trade it right now. Uh-oh, not a good sign. So there's some signs that there's something happening behind the scenes there. Well, obviously, a brink of default. There's talks of even Evergrande selling properties for much cheaper prices. People are protesting in front of headquarters and here you go, you can see the little picture here of angry protesters at the headquarters. And even some of the management have to be sleeping in hotels or are sleeping in the building because they literally can't get out because of these angry protesters there.
As they
So
should be.
we're gonna watch what happens here because as CNBC says here, Evergrande's collapse would be the biggest test that China's financial system has faced in years, and a lot of people have mentioned, China needs its 2008 credit crunch moment. It's going to happen sometime. Is it happening now? And go ahead, Gil.
Oh, sorry. Now, is this a result of the super cities, the infrastructure program driven by the Chinese that was based on debt to begin with, and now
Right.
it's the chickens, proverbial chickens, are coming home to roost?
It seems like it. And Gillen, you probably know, I think you guys all know about those. Remember those fake cities they built or empty cities?
Yep.
Yeah, so that could have been a part of it. And it's sort of akin to what some people say is back in the day when you government told you to dig holes and then cover it up again. Nothing productive, but it technically played a part in increasing GDP because you're getting paid for it. And the Chinese have been building, I think they have a fake Paris, a fake London, a fake Las Vegas, or these empty cities that
Now,
some people say.
the idea is that yes, they are empty.
Yeah.
Now, the CCP, for whatever else you may say about it, has a long vision.
Right.
This is a company or company. This is a committee that has 100 years down the road planned out. Now, they had thought and felt that they could convert their economy from a rural to an urban one easily, and that's culturally and logistically just not possible, even with the incredible power that the CCP has for social engineering. So these cities will probably populate and thrive, but not today. 10,
No,
20 years down the road, maybe 30 years down the road, as the whole culture shifts.
you're right.
Now, they've driven a wedge or thrown a wrench into the works of this transition now by penalizing anything Western in an effort to maintain control over the population and their economy. The breakdown on the tech companies is not really to
Right.
break them down; it's more or less to break the power and
Right.
allow the government to have the last say in pretty well everything.
Yeah.
So it'll be very interesting to see what happens over the next little while, at least for me,
100%.
because this seems to be pointing itself in the wrong direction if they intend to become the next superpower.
Right. It's likely there will be some sort of bailout, but how that restructuring happens, we'll wait and see. And again, Galen, we talked about this off there, but the U.S. did the same thing, right? Where
Oh, absolutely.
in their way, though, they
payment
let
was very much that,
yeah.
and
But
China may have to resort to that as well.
the difference, though, is the U.S. let Lehman Brothers fall before they did the bailout. I don't know if China lets Evergrande to fail and then bails out all these other guys that would also fall with the dominoes. But let's see. There's probably with the bonds being suspended and no interest payments, likely there's some sort of restructuring or bailout already in the works behind the scenes. I was going to ask TK. I have a chart here of Evergrande on the Hong Kong Stock Exchange trading at $2.54 Hong Kong dollars. Do you buy the dip?
Oh hell no! You know, financial institutions alone in the U.S. I don't trust. Although I like them, I don't trust them. The Chinese ones are even worse. So I didn't know the story until a couple minutes ago, and we're getting ready for it. So I was like, you know what? Let me do my usual and just take a quick look at the disaster that's been building up here. So these guys have almost like $300 billion in liabilities, $368 billion in assets. But the long-term debt is not the concern here. It's the debt that's coming due at the end of this year.
Okay.
They have $37 billion in principal payments they have to make at the end of the year, of which some of that is now defaulted.
Right.
So if they don't make the interest payments, it's an automatic default. It's in a default event. So the bonds will be downgraded, and the companies in receivership or bankruptcy, depending on what the government decides to do. But the interesting thing is, for the last few years, the interest payments have been almost 50%
Wow.
of their operating income. So they've been, yeah, it's a situation that's probably been building up for a while.
And,
What I think should happen is, I think they should allow it to be bankrupt. I think they should have a Lehman situation.
Lehman situation, 13 years later.
Yeah,
China
I think
situation.
I don't like. I think the free market does a good job of. I know. Let me rephrase that. The free market does an okay job of rooting out people who misuse the system. And if you overlever and make terrible choices as a financial institution on the liability side, you deserve what comes to you at the end of it. The only issue now is the CCP is very people focused.
Yep.
So if this affects a large population of their developing side, which is their developing side. So not the developed side, because they're really focused on bringing people out of poverty right now. That's kind of their main push. That's why they made Alibaba make a commitment to pay $15 billion a year to progress that and stuff like that. So it depends what the policymakers think of it, but I think they should allow it to what is it? Allow the chickens to roost, or allow the hens to roost, whatever.
Let the chickens come home.
Yeah,
I think you know what you're talking about.
Yeah.
Now, TK, I got a question for you. We've discussed how this might impact the Chinese economy, but considering how much foreign investment is on the bonds, how is this going to hit us?
Again, the chickens should come to roost as well. If your bond department is making investments, they should do their due diligence and kind of see the ability of the company to pay its liabilities or its bonds in this situation. So if you're a bond investor in a bank and you're buying low grade investment bonds because they're giving you 4% yield just for chasing the yield, I think you also deserve to be fired as well. But again, I'm relying on the free market here because I think there's no perfect term for it, but it's an okay deterrent of terrible misuse of capital. Sometimes it doesn't work well, and that's when you need intervention. But in a situation like this, management can see this a mile away.
So do you guys' own due diligence, but UBS, HSBC, BlackRock, and Royal Bank of Canada are like the four banks with large Evergrande bond positions. And me personally, I just bought a put on UBS here. I like the fact that it's breaking down here. So do your own diligence. Not a trade idea, but
honestly, I support that. I think they should all suffer for what they do. Obviously, this is a different approach for me. Usually, I'm the optimist about the financial system, but I think the financial system works well when people do their due diligence. There's integrity, and if people are trying to uphold the integrity of the capital system. But when people misuse it and they mistake leverage for genius, that's when I think you deserve.
Timothy Woods.
One of the craziest things about Evergrande that a lot of people are mentioning is they've been profitable. I think it's either every quarter or every year. But not only that, their working capital, like their capital, their current assets versus current liabilities, has always been positive. So like on paper it looks good, but when you leverage yourself like that,
Drew, if
that's the crazy thing.
The wrong side, it can compete. But you can notice, so their cash pile has kind of been rapidly decreasing for some time now, and cash flows but financial institutions' cash flows are not predictable. But these guys burn cash. So they might be making earnings, but they're burning so much cash trying to keep up with that earnings. So I think they were making probably a lot of acquisitions and stuff like that to try keep analysts quarterly, satisfied. And that's kind of what Galen you're talking about. The CCP is focused on the long term. So they were like, oh, you guys have, sorted out 30-year mortgages or whatever you're doing. You've built these properties or invested and financed this and that. Okay, we're cool with that. And then the short-term stuff was just looked over. It's like, oh, okay, you know what? This quarter you made 100 million. So they made 100 million in the last quarter in operating income, and their interest bill was 400 million.
Ouch.
And this happened for the last 2 quarters, and that's not including any principal payments and stuff like that they have to make. So again, I think whoever invested in their bonds, hey, it's
Time to dump.
Right here, Virgo, Ashmore, BlackRock, UBS, HSBC are the biggest emerging market investors holding Evergrande bonds. So
it's time to explain to your wife why you can't go on that trip.
Well, thanks, DK. That was really positive, but honest, absolutely honest.
On the positive side,
Yeah.
I think it will be something will
yeah,
be organized. If I think it started in September, not September, last year, when I was reading this article. So they've probably been negotiating something. And then one of their big investors was like, okay, we're not going to take our principal payment if you sort out a plan for repayment. So good steps. But if anyone has watched Margin Call or any one of those movies, they all said the same thing. And Monday morning was a whole different story.
Well, honestly, dude, that's what I'm sort of worried about. Depending on how this candle closes today, if it closes like this on the S&P 500, and I mean the Nasdaq and the Dow are also red, but maybe we have a Black Monday over the weekend. Maybe some news comes out, and we shall see. But
on the better side, Black Monday sales for us.
right? Is that this week?
Yeah. Like that. Well, thanks, DK. Now, Joseph. It's been a crazy week in the world of crypto. What do you got for us?
It's been a little unusual for certain. I mean, the thing is, when they made Bitcoin legal tender in El Salvador, at first I was like, that's a great idea. That's moving forward. That is an excellent laboratory to see how it would interact on a national stage. But I mean, like, it kind of continues a long history of where I don't know, Western countries will actually use these countries as laboratories for their often failed experiments. And I'm beginning to think that this isn't much different. Like, for the most part, I mean, okay, I have a BBC article on my screen right now. And we have an excellent point, which is made by one of President Bukele's immediate opposition. He says, we're not cryptocurrency or Bitcoin haters, but we don't believe that it should be compulsory that businesses should be obligated to accept Bitcoin in payment. And I couldn't agree more. Like, everybody knows that I have kind of I have a mixed view of Bitcoin. I have a mixed view of cryptocurrency. I'm generally forward. I'm more neutral good, but if you want to use the alignment spectrum. But for the most part, I don't think people should be forced to use something they immediately disagree with, something they don't understand. And if they rolled it out too fast, there isn't enough liquidity, there isn't enough ways to actually use it. It just said, we're doing this, and you have to like it, and you have to adapt. And I think that's a terrible way of doing things. Anyone else got a take on that?
I agree with you on that, brother. I totally agree with you. And honestly, and I can't blame the government to a certain extent for its efforts in this way, because basically they're trying to get out under the thumb of the IMF, and by shifting currencies completely where they're not actually being controlled by that body, they have some autonomy back. Now, everybody knows that the IMF, under the guise of helping, basically comes into a country, rips open their economy, takes everything that's of any value, and then puts them into eternal servitude, debt servitude. So not really a great situation for anybody that's involved with the IMF. I'm sorry for anybody that's like a true believer and thinks that they're out there to help. No.
No, they don't have a history.
Yeah. So
Read
this
John
is
Perkins' book.
Yeah.
Confessions of an Economic Hitman.
There you go, man. It's basically the truth. And so, and I don't blame these countries. I mean, everybody has tried to kick at the IMF in all sorts of ways. Venezuela's tried it, mostly, the Latin American countries, because they're really feeling the pressure. Like, not only are they in internally debt servitude, their economies are destroyed, and the people and the citizens that live there are living in, hell, basically, with no way of getting out. And it only gets worse. So they need, honestly, and this is, me being a pie in the sky kind of guy, there needs to be a debt jubilee, guys. debt on this scale globally does nothing but either oppress the internal economy of the country that's under the thumb, or just basically destroy the actual global economy itself.
Yeah, no disagreements here. I mean,
So-
these countries are never going to climb out of the debt cycle with like, I don't know, we raise interest rates, so global interest rates, and they're drowning in debt, and they can't even pay the baseline interest. I mean, that's happened a few times in history already, and it just continues the poverty cycle.
I think Argentina is a great example too, right? Because a lot of people don't know, but Argentina was the fourth richest country in the world, like back in the 90s, or maybe before that. And then once the IMF got involved,
took everything.
Yeah, you sort of see what happens now. Now they have they have like new currencies every
20 minutes.
It's always inflating, right? So.
Yeah, you know, there was a speech that our president from Zimbabwe, my home country, he gave after 2008. Yeah, after these bills were discontinued, or they stopped putting zeros at the end of the bill.
Because there wasn't any room left.
Yeah, it wasn't economic. The printing press to print each one was costing more than the bills themselves. So they're like, you can't add any extra zeros. But he was talking about debt jubilees and how the IMF had put in a request for a plan for the country. Mm-hmm. And he's well, I won't say it here, but he eloquently said, we don't want your business. Yeah, and obviously since then people hated him, and they were like kind of what's happening in El Salvador now.
Right.
But eventually the plan came out and they started using the USD, and we thought that was going to be a better plan, and it just made things worse. Because each time you convert, there's a certain amount of purchasing power that's lost, no matter what the government tries to do.
I was going to say, is that the speech where Mugabe came out and said, we're not gays?
Yeah, it's the same speech. Okay. Yeah, he's like, we don't support that, and, don't effing, he's like, we don't trust the effing,
Yeah, at the UN, we're not gays. I remember when that came out, people were like, yo, what did he say?
Yeah, geez, come on, buddy. Like, keep it internal. But this same situation, and that was in 2008, and obviously they gave some financial aid, but that financial aid did nothing. It actually made the situation worse.
Genocidal dictator.
Yeah, it actually made things worse. People's farms were taken, etc. So I kind of get the concerns of the citizens. It's like, we kind of see we get what you're doing at the state level, but you're not really seeing how people are being affected by these changes. At the same time, I don't want to be the politician sitting there telling people this Bitcoin thing is going to work and we're going to be okay. Because nobody actually knows. No. Not even himself. So it's kind of a hard sell. I don't know how he got it through his democratic system, in quotes. I don't know how he got it through.
How are we for time here, Galen? Because I know there's another guy who's been apparently kissing bums in China.
Oh yes, no, I'd love to take up that torch. All right, so as a furthering of the saga Tesla, Elon Musk, after having lost 70% of the market share, is now back kissing ass, as per the Zero Hedge article at the line. And it's true, because that's basically what he's doing to try and get his market share back. I don't know if that's going to be possible. But the way he's doing it is incredibly, distasteful. I just... The guy's proven time and again that he has no allegiance to anybody other than his own bottom line. And this tour proves that effect. Now, let's just go back to the actual vehicles themselves and the fact that we got the viewer back. The vehicles themselves, the Model Y, this one that he's pushing out right now, has been noted by Motor Trend to be one of the worst assembled vehicles in modern history. It's just coming apart at the seams. Panels are misaligned. It's the vehicle itself, as far as the powertrain is concerned, is still Tesla product, but it's just how it's being put together. Now, the the rumor is, and it's a pretty good rumor, is that Tesla has decided, or Musk, not Tesla, Musk has decided that there's no need to stop the assembly line for actually quality control. He just wants you to pump the fucking cars out because he knows he has a bunch of lapdogs on the other side that are just going to pay whatever he asks to buy the vehicle because it's a Tesla.
Yes, sir.
Consumers need to smarten up. There's so many other options out there. And yes, Kathy Wood has continued to sell Tesla stock after touting it for so long, which is a
what was it,
huge
$3,000 or
indication.
10,000 target? I can't remember.
Something like that. She just keeps going on. I think it was 3,000.
3,000 makes sense. Yeah.
So like she's basically just turning tail and running and leaving the rest of us to sort of hold the bag, which is basically what's going to happen in the next 18 months, if that long. Proof positive that Tesla is no longer the controlling character in the EV sector is the release of Rivian's their own Cybertruck. Why did I say that? I don't want to give it any more press than it necessary. Rivian's own truck, RT1, I believe, or R1T. Which actually looks like a pickup truck, not an angled brick looking like a cast off from the Space 1999 set that only idiots would buy. So this vehicle is actually a good vehicle and it runs well, and there are many other manufacturers that are now in the pipe to get their own trucks on the road long before Tesla has the opportunity. Volkswagen has come full steam ahead in the EV sector, and with its ID4 looks to actually be the biggest player globally by 2025. Tesla also is losing the race in battery technology and application. Lightyear is a company that has, I think, yet to go public, but produces a vehicle that has partial solar panels included with it that allows the user to go months without having to charge. Now, this would be an awesome vehicle. This is actual breaking ground technology. Lucid just recently proof positive that their own vehicle has much greater range, 520 miles under an EPA rating, than the Tesla vehicle itself. To be said, Lucid will have trouble making and won't have a vehicle until probably 2030 that you and I can afford. But the fact is, the technology is pushing boundaries in other companies, not at Tesla any longer. So what is the charm? It's basically the idiot behind the mic. It's the guy that keeps going on Twitter and making comments that are completely out of reach, realistically. This production of robots he's planning to use based on his AI technology, which is about to go beta in Canada, by the way, for anyone that's interested. So, emergency vehicles and cement pillars, beware. Your life has now been shortened. The fact that this guy is able to circumvent safety protocols with wild abandon should be something that comes under great scrutiny. We don't need business like this. This pushing in the envelope without any regard for the general population or for safety or for even quality, as I said, with the pushing through of his vehicles, knowing that people are just going to buy them. It's ridiculous.
If I was a shareholder, I'd be concerned. Ignoring the 500-page annual report that says nothing. It's just the guy himself tells you everything you need to know. He's on record of saying, if I left, the company would basically be nothing. Exactly. I don't even want to be CEO, and capital allocation is a stupid man's job, and he spends half of his time on Twitter. I'm like, oh my God, this is my CEO.
Yeah, exactly.
He's the one.
Now he's playing with his space toys. He doesn't really care about Tesla anymore. He's pulled away from that. Right?
He'll be hardcore too.
Yeah.
I would be so concerned. And my thing now, I'm waiting for Tesla to be tested. Because as of now, they haven't been tested because they're growing rapidly and people are willing to finance them no matter what dream he sells. But you can't go away from the economics of being in the car manufacturing industry. That is, you can call yourself a tech company all you want, and he probably is, but he manufactures cars. That is majority of where your assets are. If the economy struggles, like people are predicting it's going to be, you're going to be on the front line of that affection. Like, you're going to be affected. When people scale down their spending on discretionary goods, the first thing that goes are big ticket items. And if people are not spending as much on cars or etc. That squeezes your margins, and you might default on all these bonds that he's released to fund most of his operations. That is what I think he should focus on. I love the dream. I love going to space and having robots take my job. Great, do it. but at least you have a fiduciary duty to your shareholders and stakeholders to tell them the truth that the business that we're in is very difficult, and we've been throwing things in front of your face so you can ignore the true fact that what we're doing is really hard, and I have no idea if we're going to survive a really big credit crunch in the US. And I'd rather have a CEO like that instead of him telling me that he's going to go,
make robots.
But here's a dancing AI robot.
So yeah, I honestly think 18 months. With the growing competition that we already have, the inability for him to continue selling tax credits, and the failure of the Cybertruck, and also the tabless battery situation.
That's true.
There's all sorts of unfulfilled promises with this company, and I don't see a bright future.
True. If we have time, I wanted to talk about China.
Please.
And their competition real quick.
Yep.
Especially with him going there. There was a video of Jack Ma and the former CEO of Starbucks. I forget his name. I think he wanted to run for office, I think.
Yeah, I'm not sure what his name is. Sorry, you got me on that.
Yeah, I forgot
I'll
his
look
name.
it up, though.
Awesome. Yeah, he wanted to run for office. I think he
Kevin Johnson?
did. It's
Howard,
the former
Howard Schultz? Howard Schultz?
Oh, he's the previous, yeah.
Yeah, the previous. They were in an interview together, and Starbucks is the only U.S. brand to have done well outside of China's niche, because China is focused on tea and herbs and stuff, but they've done well with the coffee brands that side. And he was saying the only way we could do this is collaborate. The politically correct version is the only way we could do this is collaboration with our competitors and business leaders here and the government. And then he was asked, when you come here, do they talk to you? Do the representatives of the CCP talk to you about Trump at the time? And he's like, obviously politically correct. He's like, they ask a lot of questions, but I always say to them, I'm not here to advertise to advertise the political campaign. I'm here to focus on the business. But undertone was, these guys are very aggressive and the competition is tight, and they say it to you in your face that we're coming to get you. They have like this warriors mentality kind of thing. And you can kind of see if Elon goes into China to try to compete with the space, with the way that his company is set up, I don't think they might be able to compete.
No. They have to sell direct everything. They're not playing with anybody, and I think the CCP is not going to take kindly to that.
Take it kindly.
And also, which I find is actually kind of funny, just a quick thing, is the Biden administration making it a union car tax exemption, which I think is great because it supports unions, but it really pisses off Honda, Toyota, and Tesla because they're non-union.
True. We'll see if it works out.
18 months. Dump your stocks now. All right. Of course, this is just a suggestion, and you should probably do your own due diligence, please. Don't just listen to me because I am insane. These other guys aren't. They're a lot smarter than I am and have very good perceptions into what they're talking about. But still, do your due diligence, please. All right. Well, I think that ends it for today's show. We're just a little over 30, but, hey, I think it was a good conversation.
Yes, sir.
Awesome.
Big news, yep.
All right. Well, you guys take care. We'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week. It's rainy here in Vancouver. We're now in drench season. Take care. Bye.
See you guys.